Let's talk about ORV because ORV is one crazy story. So ORV, or also known as Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, or just Omniscient Reader, is a web novel that started in 2015 and has 551 chapters, and it also has a webtoon adaptation, and it's going to have a K-drama and anime adaptation. So the story is about Kim Dokja. His name has multiple meanings. Dokja means reader, it means alone, it means individual. And Kim Dokja is a regular office worker in Korea and is a big fan of serialized web novels. On the subway ride home, his favorite series titled 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, or also translated as 3 Ways to Survive a Ruined World, comes to an end. And as the series ends, so does his regular life. Suddenly, the events of 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse comes to life, and KDJ is faced with deadly scenarios as he tries to change the ending of his favorite novel. And so, obviously, throughout the story, KDJ meets like the actual protagonist of the original story, and he becomes allies with him, and he makes his own allies, and you basically follow his story throughout the scenarios and see how he changes the course of the story. And what I really want to talk about is the world building, because I think the world building is so good. Like, it's so delectable, and I love how the authors slowly expand the world as you read more into it, and it doesn't even feel like too much as the world just like expands into something unfathomable, because like you're introduced to it bit by bit, and it's like so cool. So basically, planets like Earth are seen as settings, and humans are seen as actors, and the viewers are called constellations, who are historical or mythical beings. The dokebi, which is Korean for goblin, are the beings who broadcast the scenarios on their channel. So this is basically one huge entire live stream for deities for some reason. I don't know. There are also other worlds and other realms. For example, there's a world where everything is small, and then there's also the demon realm, and there's the otherworld gods. So you would think that there is an other world for there to be an otherworld gods, and you get introduced to more different like parallel realms and universes, just like different settings, and it's just like so cool. It's like so cool. The characters, or the humans, they're called incarnations, and each character has an attribute and skill. Take Lee for example. She has a sponsor. Oh, did I explain that already? Right. Constellations can also sponsor incarnations, so they basically help their incarnation out. They give their incarnation coins, and they like help their incarnation level up and stuff. And Lee, her constellation sponsor is Maritime War God, who is based on a Korean historical figure. And her attribute is Guard Sword Demon, and her skills include sword training, demon slaying, absolute sense, and ghost walk, which is pretty cool. So she's like her footsteps are like absolutely quiet, and like she's like slick and sly, and it's like, I don't know, but like she's really cool. I really like Lee. Speaking about constellations are split into two. We have thrill seekers and incarnation seekers. Thrill seekers enter a channel to watch violence and like gore and incarnations killing each other, while incarnation seekers enter a channel to find an incarnation to sponsor. The important constellations are part of a nebula. The nebulas are basically just like divisions, I guess. They're just like separate groups of constellations that are just like, they're just constellations grouped together basically. You have like the great nebulas, like the real, not heavy duty, the real important nebulas. We have Asgard, Olympus, Eden, Vedas, Papyrus, and Emperor, and KDJ Company. And I mean, you can probably guess what all those titles mean. So Asgard is like a nebula for the gods of Norse mythology. In this story, they're constellations. Olympus gods are also constellations. And then Eden is basically like biblical figures their constellations, and it's like really cool how, yeah, it's just really cool. I think there's like a lot of thought was put into building this world, and I really appreciate it. I really admire it. It's so cool. It's so good. So good. Outside of nebulas, you just have like constellations that are in peninsula. So like e.g. his sponsor, Maritime War God, is part of the Korean peninsula because he's based on a Korean historical figure. And like that applies to like every kind of culture. Like at some point in the story you have Japanese characters enter, and then their sponsors are part of the Japanese peninsula. And for most of volume 1, we're in Korea and we're in Seoul, and it's called the Seoul Dome. And every country they have their own dome in like the capital city, and I'm pretty sure there's other domes in other major cities. Like I'm sure the scenarios happened like, no, I don't think countrywide, because like in the first volume you learn that like outside of the Seoul Dome the scenarios don't really reach much, and people just think the scenarios are like, I don't know, some big joke. But I think like it does happen in other parts of the country being Korea, but like I don't know, I'm not too sure. But like yeah, there's like a dome for every major capital city. Like you have the Tokyo Dome, you have the Washington Dome for like America, and it's like, I mean like that's pretty cool. I mean then, but like by the end of volume 1 those domes are destroyed and the scenarios stretch across the whole country, I think. I'm pretty sure. ORV also does a great job of incorporating history and culture in its scenarios and the story in general. Like a lot of the villains and antagonists and creatures will be based off like mythological figures in like Korean mythology or just historical figures from Korea, and it's like, it's so cool that you get to learn about these parts of the culture, and not just about Korea. When the Japanese characters enter, you learn about, you know, the Japanese historical figures, the Japanese constellations that are based on like Japanese mythological creatures, and you learn about like Japanese creatures and monsters, and it's like really cool. ORV also again does a great job at expanding lore and like not dumping lore on you. So like in the first 15 episodes we learn about constellations, incarnations, sponsors, stuff like that, and we learn about the basic monsters and like the basic creatures that we gotta look out for, and it's all very palatable for the moment. By episode 90, this is talking about the webtoon, because I tried to read the web novel, and I'm just not a web novel girl. I can't take it. I can't handle reading the web novel. So we're going to be basing off the webtoon. So in episode 90 to 100, it talks a bit about Lee Jung-hyuk, which is the protagonist of 3 Ways to Survive a Ruined World. And we learn about his past regressions with Shin Yu-sung, who is a character that we encounter. And the character Shin Yu-sung is one of the first major disasters we encounter in the story. And she's considered that because she and Lee Jung-hyuk have a lot of like past drama and stuff. Like Lee Jung-hyuk, it's Lee Jung-hyuk, sorry. Lee Jung-hyuk promised to like save Shin Yu-sung and like stop the scenarios and stuff, but he didn't do it because this was very early on in his regressions. And then Shin Yu-sung is like very angry about it, and then we get a fight scene, and it's really cool. It's really interesting how the fight scene happened in the web novel, and I really like how Kim Dok-ja stepped in and like basically changed the course of the fight scene. And like I love what Kim Dok-ja does. Kim Dok-ja is like a very interesting protagonist for a story. Ooh, and also about the fight scene and like basically the entire like conflict with Shin Yu-sung. Like at some point your belief that we can actually solve this conflict, like Shin Yu-sung, Like, we don't actually need to be fighting. And it's like, you think there's a you think there's a resolution, but no. Why? Because the higher ups, aka the dokebi, decide to mess in, and it's like, it was such a whirlwind of emotions. Those 10 chapters, or like those chapters where Shin Yu-sung appears, and it's like, it was such an interesting plot point. Ooh, let's talk about the little world. So, I mentioned before that there was a world where everything was tiny. And how we managed to get to that world was there was a scenario where everyone gathered at the Seoul Dome, and then like a few selected people had to go to this other world while the rest of the people had to fight in the scenario that was happening, in the regular world. The scenario is, it's so sick and twisted. So they get transported into the little world, but like, you would think they would have to fight something, like, there's a big bad. You would think there's a big bad in the little world, and they gotta fight it, and they gotta save the little world people. But the people who got transferred to the little world, they are the big bad. They are the scenario's villains. They're the scenario's disasters, and what they have to do is kill the little world's citizens, which is crazy, which is sick and twisted. But like, obviously, in the nature of any protagonist, that's not what our heroes do, They decided to help and fight with the little world people, which eventually makes them become which makes them become little size. So at first, when they were considered as the scenario's disasters, they were still regular sized and the people were little. But then when they started to help the little world people, they started to shrink and become the size of the little world people. And it's like so interesting. It's so interesting. And with this little world was written by a character in the story. And it's like so interesting. It was so interesting how, like, we know that the world of 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse was written by an author, and then it came to life. And then there's the little world story, who was written by an author, and then it came to life. And it's like I don't know, there's parallels to it that I can't explain because I'm not that smart. But it's really cool. And by the end of the scenario, after they saved the little world and the little people, the author forgot that she wrote the story. The author forgot that she created this world. And it's like trippy. It's like trippy because our main character, Kim Dok-ja, doesn't remember that happening in the story. He doesn't remember that the author forgets the memory. And it's like so cool. There's so many cool and interesting things that happen in the story, and it's just like so much. It was so much things to talk about. Oh my god. And like, I can't talk about it because I can't seem to put it into words. And that is it for this episode. I'm further along in the ORV story, but I haven't caught up with it for a while, so I don't want to talk about things I don't really know yet. But I do recommend everyone listening to check out ORV. I think ORV is so good. I think it's so well written. I think it has an amazing plot, amazing characters, amazing storyline, amazing world building. There's so many cool concepts in that story, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. That is all. Thank you for listening to me rambling about ORV. Bye-bye!